yesterday in Smoke Thoughts, Lloyd Collins, the LGM, asked, questioned magical healing and sort of suggesting that the abundance of magical healing and its power in games eliminates threat and the emotional impact of threat and loss in combat. And to a large extent, I agree with him. And it seems to tie in with a series of videos that he and Rob Coletta of Performance Checks has been have been putting out about why aren't you more afraid in role-playing games. They're sort of describing these monsters and how our natural reaction would be if we were confronted with them, and why are the characters in games not more afraid. Do you want mechanical fear or fear from the players who are controlling the characters? Mechanical fear, there are some games with a system for mechanical fear. Even D&D has saving throws against fear. Dragon fear and various other creatures can create magical fear, and there is a mechanical fear that the characters can have, and some players like to roleplay fear, either just a slight gesture that showing how pale they are as they go to fight the creature, or even some go more in depth and reveal real and break down in front of a threat. But generally, most characters that we create are badasses or want to be badasses. Occasionally, for a change, I might create one who is a coward and will try to avoid combat and defeat the opponents in indirect ways, indirect and cheap ways, as a different approach. But generally, I like to play brave people who might be afraid, but they face up to their opponents. Their reaction will be to confront the thing that's frightening them. Player-wise, though, I might say that my character is white with fear as he goes to fight. Player-wise, it's more difficult to create fear in a player. I think you need two ingredients to do that. The real possibility of death, which, for example, removing magical healing and the consequences of that will bring to a campaign, upping the danger, increasing, including the lingering injuries and other critical hit sort of consequences in a game, increasing the lethality of combat. So death and loss is not some amazingly distant possibility, but a real probability in each combat. And the other thing is that's one that Lloyd and Rob have addressed in quite a few of their videos. Tactics to increase the lethality, the danger of combat. But that in itself will not make the players fear. To fear, you've also got to care about what happens to the player character. Now, for beginner players, if you're playing your first character, you'll automatically have an emotional investment in it and want it to survive, want it to live. If you're a more experienced player, or maybe more experienced player, or on your 100th or 1,000th character, or if you're playing in a campaign where you don't really have much influence, your player is you're just listening to somebody dictating, you probably don't care what happens in the end. You may stop caring about the character, the campaign, the consequences, and in these cases you won't feel fear. So there are two things a GM needs to do to create an emotional response in the players. One is increase the danger of combat, the potential lethality, and 2 is to make the players to allow. Not make the players, allow the players. The players enter the game wanting to invest, wanting to care, wanting to get involved, get drawn in, and it's up to you as the GM to allow them to do that, to dangle carrots of hope in front of them, to let some of their plans come to fruition, to give them things to live for, people to care about, places to care about, a farm to build, children, any hopes more than a +3 sword. Even +3 swords are enough for some characters to generate that. For some players to create a feeling of caring about their character, but give your players hope, and if they've got hope, threatening their hopes, their dreams, will create fear. So it's that balance between, if you've taken away everything. I've played in Lamentations of the Flame Princess. I liked my character, but it's a brutal world we live in, and a brutal system where my character stayed alive for quite a long time, more through luck than anything. He didn't avoid dangerous confrontations, ran away from quite a few, but he was still an adventurer and sought out, went to see what was going on. And it's just, with the passage of time, he lost everybody quite a few times, and could see that it was just luck that he was living on. And he could have done 2 things at that stage: retired, or accepted that he was going to die. One day his luck was going to run out and go out on his own terms. And this is what he chose to do. And I've had other characters do that. Twice, I play in low magic or no magic settings, and twice I've received a festering wound on the D&D lingering injuries table. If in a low magic, they were in Viking settings. The only way to cure it, according to the DMG, is with magical healing, which wasn't an option, or with 10 successful DC 15 healing checks, medicine checks, and you lose 1 hit point a day until those 10 have been accumulated. So you lose a minimum of 10 permanent hit points, and possibly all of them. And we were playing in a fairly realistic Viking setting. There aren't people with medicine. Medieval medicine was shit. Let's face it. They didn't know how to heal a gut wound. It's an interesting experience having. I really enjoyed the experience of having a character who every day he was going to lose a hit point until he died, and so he could die shivering in a hut, holding his hallucinating and holding his belly, or in combat. And he chose option B, but he knew he was going to die. You're fated. If you have, I actually, Lloyd and some others, and Nicholas Dawson, for example, have argued that you need more brutal critical injuries, or have added more to create more variety. But I actually think the ones in the DMG, if you completely apply the festering wound in a place with medieval levels of medicine, so nobody has medicine unless possibly you take it as a feat rather than you can have it as a starting skill, and nobody has magical healing. If you receive a festering wound, you're going to die. Choose how you do it. It's a different role-playing experience, and I recommend it to everyone. My name's Caius. I love role-playing games, and I hope to see you in one.